writing the equation of a parabola in vertex form. Okay, so as we worked with our last graph, we were creating equations and trying to make those graphs match certain points that were given. Right? That's what the goal of our last group activity was. So for us, we're going to do the same exact thing now, except I'm going to give you the vertex. Let's say the vertex is 1, 2. Let's say you see a parabola that looks like this. So automatically, our vertex form is ax minus h squared plus k. That is our form that we're going to use to set up these easy parabolas because we just have to plug in our h and k, which is our vertex. And in this case, my h is 1 and my k is 2. So as we fill out our h and our k, our x and our y value here, y is equal to a x minus 1 squared plus 2. You are 66% of the way there. Now, the a value really messes us up because that's actually one of the hardest values to find. Well, yes and no. Honestly, yes and no. So let me give you some easy resources that we talked about already. So if the a value, so the way we read the a value, it's really the easiest way to look at one step over and one step up. If it's one step over, the value up or down tells us how fast that a value is moving. Now let me give you two examples. If I tell you it's one step over, one step up, we know a is going to be exactly 1. If I go, same 1, 2. If you notice that this graph here is a little bit, a little bit more narrow. It's a vertical stretch, but count as I go one step over. How many steps up do we go? Would 2 be okay? So automatically, our a value we know is 2. Give you a third example. If I go one step over and I go half a step up, we know our a value is 1/2. So if you look at a parabola and you can read that one step over value, that's our a modifier. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Desmos Graphing real quick. I'm going to show you guys if that's true or not. Let's go ahead and test this idea. So I'm going to write y equals, we'll stick a letter a here, a x minus 1 squared plus 1. Okay, stick a slider for a. So I'm going to zoom in for you guys so you guys can all see this. Okay, so all the big boxes are one step. Okay, so from my vertex, if I take one step over to the right and one step up, my a value is 1 like you guys see. Is everyone okay with that? One step over, one step up. That's the a value that we see. That's actually our parent function x squared. And we mentioned before, if I modify this, and what if I put a 2 now? Right? Let's take a look at one step over what happens. If I take one step over, I take 2 steps up. If I change that to a 3, one step over, it would be 1, 2, 3 steps up. What if I put a -1 here? Oh crap, the graph disappeared because all my positive values now are negative. Let's look down here. If I take 1 step over, we are 1 step down. If this becomes a 2, 1 step over becomes 2 steps down. Let's go ahead and change this back to a positive number, and I want to this time use a fraction that we showed before. We'll use 1/2. 1 divided by 2. 1/2. For my vertex, 1 step over would mean half a step up. Does that look like a half to you guys? If I change this to a 1/4, so as you can see that the graph becomes even more narrower, so more flat. So 1 step over would be a quarter of the step up. So one cool thing about this vertex form, it actually helps us graph these graphs really quickly, right? You can tell how wide or narrow these graphs are. And on your last IXL that you guys did maybe about 4 days ago, now you guys were able to graph these problems. The problem with IXL though is that you could only graph half marks. And you can see here that this quarter mark, you couldn't graph this on IXL. So I couldn't just graph a nice quarter. But if you follow the line here, isn't this a nice pointer here, 3, 2? So in the last IXL, last homework, I tried to work really hard, try to explain to you guys, how do I end up picking the right value? So when I have to graph it on IXL, that I can find a nice, easy point to graph that was either a whole number or an easy 1/2 fraction. So if you want, you can go back and watch that video. Okay, so our point right now is to say, hey, if I could just count that first step, you automatically know what your A value is. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys a graph here, and you tell me what the equation is going to be. Please write down the equation in vertex form of this parabola here. Please fill out your A, your H, and your K value, and then write it as a parabola function. This is -1, -2, and this is 0, 0, as well as -2, 0. In the chat below, if you guys could write out your answer once you get there. I have one answer. Okay. Someone who agrees with that answer. How many guys with your who got that answer also? Can you guys click yes if you guys also got that equation? Yes. I got 5 people. 6 with Aaliyah. 7. Now, here's the cool part. It's really just sticking Lego pieces together. We said A was 2. How do we find that out? If you take one easy step over, that is always our A value. So good job. I think the first person said that was Eden. Very fast. Good job. So we know that's a 2. Y is equal to 2, parentheses. Our H was a -1. We went to left -1. So -1. So X negative is a +1 squared. And then we're going to -2 to that. So everyone who said that, great job. Fabulous job. Now, I'm going to give you guys another way now. Since we have this example here, what if you don't want to count? Or what if it's really obscure to figure out what that first step is? Is it 0.3? Is it 0.25? Is it some weird decimal place? Because if we were drawing this and it didn't land in a nice spot, if you look here, if it didn't land in a nice spot, of course it'd be hard for us to figure out what that decimal is. So here is another method. So writing a parabola with 2 points. So please be ready for this method. This method is quite easy if you don't overthink it. First thing, for our last problem, please write down the vertex. And then write down a point for me. That's it. Write down a vertex and write down a point. This is an X and Y, H and K. So my H and K, you guys already wrote up there, was -1, -2, and a point. You pick whichever point you want. Be free to pick. You can either choose 0, 0, or -2 and 0. And we're going to do this for both of them, okay? So you can use either point, but it was an easy whole number point for us. Who wants to deal with decimal? So we're going to use our equation that we just talked about, ax minus h squared plus k. I want you guys to actually pay attention here. You wrote an h and a k. You also wrote a x and y. Can we plug x and y and h and k into this problem? We know an x and y. We also know an h and k. What's the only variable I don't know? Maybe hopefully you are seeing this already. We don't know our a. So once we plug it in, we can go and find our a. And our hope is just going to be 2. Let's go ahead and plug it in. I'm going to say 0 is equal to a, open parentheses, x. Don't write x because we know what x is. X is 0 again. -1 squared minus 2. I'm going to do the same problem on the left, this time with a point, -2, 0, okay? This is using point 0, 0. So I would write 0 is equal to a x, whoops, not x, be -2 minus -1 squared minus 2. Let's see if it gives us the same exact answer. Lost the parentheses. Okay, 0 is equal to a. This all becomes what? Negative becomes a +1, +1 squared, minus 2. Taking my time, 0 is equal to a minus 2. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. A is equal to, oh my gosh, it's the 2 we wanted. On the upper left here, let's do the same problem. 0 is equal to a. Negative is a +1. -2 plus 1 is a -1 squared minus 2. A, oops, 0 is equal to -1 squared is +1. Add 2 to both sides. A is equal to 2. If you blinked, you missed it. So are you guys okay with me using my vertex form to find what a value is by just plugging in our x, y, and our vertex h and k? It works, right? So here are a couple things that we just covered. We covered 1, the easiest one possible. Looking at the graph and just counting what that one step over, how many steps up it would be. That's our easiest way to find out what our a value is. But if our a value is some decimal, some fraction, well, screw it. If you can find a whole number, use the 2-point method, where we use 2 points, our vertex and another point, to then plug it in our vertex form to find out what our a value is. Now, we have one more method we're going to cover today, and that's what if they give me none of that? Instead, they give me just the focus. Okay, what if they give me just a focus and the vertex? What am I supposed to do with that? Okay, so a couple things we need to remember. How do I find the focus, and where and what is it? So let me draw a graph here. The focus is a special point that is in line with the vertex. Okay, the focus is in line with the vertex. The directrix is on the opposite side, wherever that may be, of the focus. It's the same distance away from the vertex, going up or down. Okay. So a couple things we want to take away first. The vertex is h comma k. And in this vertical direction, the focus is h comma k plus p. That's what I called it, the p-value. And the directrix is y is equal to k minus p, because it's that distance away. It's that distance away. So this is one of our harder methods, but not that terribly hard. Okay, so this is just a general situation. So let's go ahead and, this is just a review. Let's go ahead and do an easy problem. So what if I draw a picture and I say the parabola with a focus at, my focus, let me write it clearly, is going to be 0, 1. That is my focus. My vertex is at 0, 0. Okay. Oh, I forgot one more equation that we need. We need to know P is equal to 1 over 4A. We need to know that. Or, if you want to use instead, A is equal to 1 over P, 4P. And this will actually be a little more useful for us. Okay, so both are great. Both are the same exact equation, same thing. I just flip the A, right? Flip the A and then flip the P. I just swap them. Same thing. All right, so given the vertex and given the focus, how far is the focus from the vertex? What is our p-value? What's our p-value going to be here? Our p-value is equal to 1, right? So that's set up our equation. Y is equal to a x minus h squared plus k. What is my h and k for this problem? My h and k is 0, 0, right? We said h and k was 0, 0. So we're just plugging in Lego pieces. That's 0, 0. Now, our big deal now is, what is a going to be? Well, please use this formula. A is equal to 1 over 4p. And what did we say p was? P was equal to 1. So our a value is equal to 1 over 4 times 1, which is 1 over 4. Simplifying the problem, y is equal to 1 over 4x squared. So for this next example, we have the vertex at 1, 2, and our focus at 1, 4. And we're trying to fill out our equation. One cool thing is that you already know what your h and k is, so you're 66% the way there filling out this, this equation of a parabola. We just need our a now. And since they gave us a focus, we actually have an equation. A is equal to 1 over 4p, or you can write p is equal to 1 over 4a, and just flip it. Flip the a and the p over. So what would our p-value be? That's our first question. What is p? P is the distance from our vertex to our focus. Okay, so the distance 4 minus 2 is 2. That's our p-value. So if I plug that in, since p is 2, a is 1 over 4 times 2. It's 1 over 8. So y is equal to 1 over 8 x minus 1 squared plus 2. Now, if my a value is 1 over 8, that means this would have been a really flat curve, and I wouldn't have been able to do the one-step easy rule, because the fraction 1/8 would be impossible for us to guess. What's the difference between 1/8 and 1/9? I don't know. You can't tell the difference.